Hey guys, this is chapter 16 of The Science of Getting Rich. I will read the text first and then have commentary at the end. Chapter 16, Some Cautions and Concluding Observations. Many people will scoff at the idea that there is an exact science of getting rich. Holding the impression that the supply of wealth is limited, they will insist that social and government institutions must be changed before even any considerable number of people can acquire a competence. But this is not true. It is true that existing governments keep the masses in poverty, but this is because the masses do not think and act in the certain way. If the masses begin to move forward as suggested in this book, neither governments nor industrial systems can check them. All systems must be modified to accommodate the forward movement. If the people have the advancing mind, have the faith that they can become rich, and move forward with the fixed purpose to become rich, nothing can possibly keep them in poverty. Individuals may enter upon the certain way at any time and under any government and make themselves rich. And when any considerable number of individuals do so under any government, they will cause the system to be so modified as to open the way for others. The more men who get rich on the competitive plane, the worse for others. The more who get rich on the creative plane, the better for others. The economic salvation of the masses can only be accomplished by getting a large number of people to practice the scientific method set down in this book and become rich. These will show others the way and inspire them with a desire for real life, with the faith that it can be attained, and with the purpose to attain it. For the present, however, it is enough to know that neither the government under which you live nor the capitalistic or competitive system of industry can keep you from getting rich. When you enter upon the creative plane of thought, you will rise above all these things and become the citizen of another kingdom. But remember that your thought must be held upon the creative plane. You are never for an instant to be betrayed into regarding the supply as limited, or into acting on the moral level of competition. Whenever you do fall into old ways of thought, correct yourself instantly, for when you are in the competitive mind, you have lost the cooperation of the mind of the whole. Do not spend any time in planning as to how you will meet possible emergencies in the future, except as the necessary policies may affect your actions today. You are concerned with doing today's work in a perfectly successful manner, and not with emergencies which may arise tomorrow. You can attend to them as they come. Do not concern yourself with questions as to how you shall surmount obstacles which may loom upon your business horizon, unless you can see plainly that your course must be altered today in order to avoid them. No matter how tremendous an obstruction may appear at a distance, you will find that if you go on in the certain way, it will disappear as you approach it, or that a way over, through, or around it will appear. No possible combination of circumstances can defeat a man or woman who is proceeding to get rich along strictly scientific lines. No man or woman who obeys the law can fail to get rich, any more than one can multiply 2 by 2 and fail to get 4. Give no anxious thought to possible disasters, obstacles, panics, or unfavorable combinations of circumstances. It is time enough to meet such things when they present themselves before you in the immediate present, and you will find that every difficulty carries with it the wherewithal for its overcoming. Guard your speech. Never speak of yourself, your affairs, or of anything else in a discouraged or discouraging way. Never admit the possibility of failure, or speak in a way that infers failure as a possibility. Never speak of the times as being hard, or of business conditions as being doubtful. Times may be hard, and business doubtful for those who are on the competitive plane, but they can never be so for you. You can create what you want, and you are above fear. When others are having hard times and poor business, you will find your greatest opportunities. Train yourself to think of and look upon the world as something which is becoming, which is growing, and to regard seeming evil as being only that which is undeveloped. Always speak in terms of advancement. To do otherwise is to deny your faith, and to deny your faith is to lose it. Never allow yourself to feel disappointed. You may expect to have a certain thing at a certain time, and not get it at that time, and this will appear to you like a failure. But if you hold on to your faith, you will find that the failure is only apparent. Go on in the certain way, and if you do not receive that thing, you will receive something so much better that you will see that the seeming failure was really a great success. A student of this science had set his mind on making a certain business combination, which seemed to him at the time to be very desirable, and he worked for some weeks to bring it about. When the crucial time came, the thing failed in a perfectly inexplicable way. It was as if some unseen influence had been working secretly against him. He was not disappointed. On the contrary, he thanked God that his desire had been overruled and went steadily on with a grateful mind. In a few weeks, an opportunity so much better came his way that he would not have made the first deal on any account. And he saw that a mind which knew more than he knew had prevented him from losing the greater good by entangling himself with the lesser. That is the way every seeming failure will work out for you if you keep your faith, hold to your purpose, have gratitude, and do every day all that can be done that day, doing each separate act in a successful manner. When you make a failure, it is because you have not asked for enough. Keep on, and a larger thing than you are seeking will certainly come to you. Remember this. You will not fail because you lack the necessary talent to do what you wish to do. If you go on as I have directed, you will develop all the talent that is necessary to the doing of your work. It is not within the scope of this book to deal with the science of cultivating talent, but it is as certain and simple as the process of getting rich. However, do not hesitate or waver for fear that when you come to any certain place, you will fail for lack of ability. Keep right on. When you come to that place, the ability will be furnished to you. The same source of ability which enabled the untaught Lincoln to do the greatest work in government ever accomplished by a single man is open to you. You may draw upon all the mind there is for wisdom to use in the meeting of responsibilities which are laid upon you. Go on in full faith. Study this book. Make it your constant companion until you have mastered all the ideas contained in it. While you are getting firmly established in this faith, you will do well to give up most recreations and pleasures, and to stay away from places where ideas conflicting with these are advanced in lectures or sermons. Do not read pessimistic or conflicting literature, or get into arguments upon the matter. Do very little reading, outside of the writers mentioned in the preface. Spend most of your leisure time in contemplating your vision, and in cultivating gratitude, and in reading this book. It contains all you need to know of the science of getting rich, and you will find all the essentials summed up in the following chapter. So that's chapter 16, and the comment I made on the last video for chapter 15 was basically then stated here, which is that don't put your focus on things that are wrong in society that you feel are keeping people down. What needs to happen is that people need to adopt this mentality, and when enough people do that, change happens. So trying to exert force on any, to help out any class of people that is going to continue to think not in the certain way, that is going to continue to operate on the creative plane, that's going to be futile until enough people in that class wake up. That's happening en masse in the world right now, I believe. This is an exciting time, because this book was written 113 years ago. And what's happened since then, to me, is evidence that this is taking in the minds of man. The internet has advanced this hugely. He says, remember that your thought must be held upon the creative plane. You are never for an instant to be betrayed into regarding the supply as limited or into acting on the moral level of competition. That's a tall order. Obviously, nobody's going to be perfect with this. He says, whenever you do fall into old ways of thought, correct yourself instantly, for when you are in the competitive mind, you have lost the cooperation of the mind of the whole. So the way that you know when you're in competitive mind is that it feels bad. This is a pretty simple thing. When you're in the state where all things are possible, that's a very positive feeling. When you're in creative mind where time isn't a constraint on you, the supply isn't limited, you're going to get what you want, that's an amazing feeling. When you start to drop down from that, it's because you're in competitive mind. That's how you know. So, you can do what he says. Basically, return to your vision, return to your intention, return to your faith. And on my channel, a lot of what I address is what happens when you constantly can't do that, when you're just really falling short in certain areas of being able to not think scarcity, scarcity, scarcity. But in general, you're going to know the difference by how you feel. And if you're always feeling bad about something, you're in that state of mind where it's limited supply. You're not going to get it. So how you address that, there are a lot of ways. Simply turning your attention back to, simply reminding yourself, these terms work really well for me. Just saying to myself, I'm on the plane of competition. I got to go up to the plane of creation where all things are possible. That's enough to pop me out of it a lot of the time. And being disciplined about that is another story, So I wanted to say also, he says, no matter how tremendous an obstruction may appear at a distance, you will find that if you go on in a certain way, it will disappear as you approach it, or that a way over, through, or around it will appear. This is true. This is true. I've lived through this exact thing more times than I can count now. Something seems impossible. You've been told no about something. You can't see a way. A way does not appear to exist at all. Somehow a magic person shows up. A person shows up who changes it. Something that you never thought of shows up. Some crazy outside world event happens that changes something related. It's absolutely mind-blowing how the problems that you see in your way between you and the thing you want disappear. The idea that you need just comes into your head. It's just there. You're just sitting there, and all of a sudden you think the thoughts that solve the problem. And it didn't come from any kind of toil or excessive figuring out of anything. It's just there. It's pretty crazy the way this works. He said, when others are having hard times and poor business, you will find your greatest opportunities. My current business was built during the aftermath of the recession of 2008. Things really hit the floor in 2010, 2011. And that is right when I started my business, and it took off. I mean, it's, I don't know if that's because I read this line when I was 24 and I believed it, but my business is recession-proof. My business went crazy during COVID lockdown, and it's done great during good times too. So when you take on this mentality, you just, and I don't know if it's because I'm, another part of my business, my personal business, is that it's selling a product that fits right in line with this entire book. It's something that I feel gives increase of life to everybody who gets it. It's something that I feel gives people more in use value than they give me in cash value. And I don't know if that's why it does well during a recession. I don't know if that's why it did great during COVID, but when you adopt the entire mentality, you don't just cherry pick what you like. When there's a way. You don't have to, like Neville Goddard was saying in his lecture that I read on an earlier chapter, the tarnished state is there and the untarnished state is there. They're all there. Everything's available to you. You just have to be very discriminating about what you're willing to engage in, how you're willing to act, what you're willing to do. Is it in the competitive plane? It's there. The thing you need is there. You just need to be able to say it. And that actually brings me perfectly to, he says, it's not within the scope of this book to deal with the science of cultivating talent, but it is as certain and simple as the process of getting rich. It's the same with anything, cultivating talent, anything you want. It's as certain and simple as the process of getting rich. You decide what it is you want, you intend to have it, and you know that you will. So if you need to figure out what product it is that you want to sell, if you need to figure out what insight it is that you need to have, if you need to figure out what it is that you're not seeing that's blocking you from getting what you want, that's defined. I need the insight. I'm missing an insight here. I'm stuck. I need the insight. I want it. It's done. This process is the same for anything you want in life. Anything. And it works every time. It has never failed me once, ever. And I've also definitely experienced what he said here about never allowing yourself to feel disappointed. Of course, you're going to feel disappointed. The object is to come out of that as quickly as possible. Human emotions, human reactions, they do change and get better as you live more and experience more, and this becomes more you. But you still experience disappointment. You still experience doubts and things like that. The idea is notice it, stop it, and turn it around back to the mentality that you need to be in. He talks about the student of this science set his mind on making a certain business, blah, blah. He worked to make it happen. It didn't happen. It just failed. It was like the universe was conspiring against him. But he continued on anyway, and something bigger and better he couldn't have imagined shows up, to the point where he said, God, thank God I didn't get that first thing I wanted. This is a phenomenon everybody has experienced. And this is one of the big downsides of the current manifestation community that has sprung up on YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, everywhere, is that it's promoting the exact opposite idea of this. It's promoting the idea that if you decide you want a specific thing and you don't get it, you failed. It's the exact opposite of how you need to look at it, literally. That idea is going to cause you to fail at everything, because you're going to think you did something wrong. You're going to go back and try to fix it, or you're just going to give up on everything. You're going to say, well, I can't do it. I decided I wanted a specific thing and it didn't happen. So therefore, manifestation is fake. I don't have the ability. It is the exact opposite. That is the crucial point. When you don't get the specific thing you want, that is the crucial point. That's where you're at a fork in the road. And depending on which way you go, you're either going to just totally fail or you're going to succeed wildly. There's almost no middle ground there. If you do what this person, what this person did in this story, you will see that this happens. Something that you would much rather have shows up. And, somebody said, I was talking about this on a video, somebody commented, rejection is God's protection. That's a really good thing. That's a really good way to look at it. If you don't get the thing you want, you really have to step aside and just recognize that you are not the one orchestrating all of this. You're not. You're just a drop in the ocean, and the ocean is what is orchestrating everything. You got to have faith. You have to hold to your vision, and just keep your mind open. I don't see any other way to be. There is nobody out there that is deciding they want a very specific thing and getting it every single time. It just doesn't happen that way. There's no one doing that, literally. And often when you have a specific desire for a specific thing, you do end up getting that. So it's not bad to have a specific desire for something. It is bad to look at it as a failure if it doesn't materialize in the way or in the time that you decided it was going to. That's really all I've got to say about that. People vehemently disagree with that, and that is up to them. They will live to understand that. So that's all that I have to say about that. And the next chapter is a little wrap up of the book. It's a summary. If I were you, and I would print out this chapter 16, some cautions and concluding observations. It's 3 copier sheets. I would print this out and just keep it with you and just reread it. This really encapsulates the gist of this book, and maybe the next page too, because the last page of this is also, or just print the whole thing out and keep it with you. I'll be back shortly with the wrap up to this whole thing.